Thank you for remembering, because obviously I forgot. So welcome everybody. Usually some more people will pop on as the evening goes through. We are going to be reading a new book, new to me. It just was released a couple of months ago by an American named Haleh Liza Gafori, and the title of the book is Gold, and they are new translations of Rumi, and they're really quite lovely. I wish I had more biographical information about her to share with you, but I don't. They're very different from Coleman Barks. I'm been sort of surprised how different they are. And I'm interested in hearing your point of view near the end. We'll save some time for a discussion about how you think they're different or why they're different. I haven't put my finger on why they're different, but they are distinct to her. And the thing that I know about translations of poetry in general is that there is no such thing as a literal translation of poetry that's done well. It just doesn't exist. And it doesn't exist because it cannot exist, because poetry is too tender and it's too nuanced of a language for there to be a literal translation. So everyone knows this story, but just to remind us that, there were some terrible translations of Hafez, and Mir Baba basically said to Erij, get me those books of Hafez translated in English. Nobody had any because they were so bad. It was done by a British guy, and they were worm eaten and covered in dust. And Mir Baba, it took Erij days to find the books. Mir Baba said, do not come back until you find the books. That, so there he is on a mission to find this book that nobody has. And he finds it and he brings it to Mir Baba, and Mir Baba blows on it and says, I want there to be new life in the translations of Hafez, because these were literal translations and they were terrible. I have read them. Oh my gosh, they're bad. Like, Hafez would never have been known in the world had those translations remained the definitive English translation. So it's sort of a given that you have to take some liberty with poetry, otherwise it just doesn't translate well. So, but there was something I learned from the introduction of this book that's really beautiful, and I did not know this, that Rumi wrote 65,000 poems after Shams died. 65,000 poems. And
how did they do pen and paper back
well,
in the day?
So Rumi actually spontaneously spoke them out, but because he was so famous, he had a scribe, he had a secretary, and that secretary wrote them down for us. Otherwise, we would not have copies of them. I think later
65,000 times.
And I think apparently later in Rumi's life, he really spent the last years of his life dedicated to writing. So at some point in time, he did start to write himself. And apparently on the day of his death, he was writing poetry because he recognized that it was really one of his gifts to the world. I think we can all say it's his primary gift to the world. So that was something I did not realize how many had been done. And this is something I also did not know, and that is that Shams introduced Rumi to the practice of what it's called sama in Farsi, but it translates as the word deep listening. Coleman Barks talks about it. And apparently in the Muslim faith, sama meant listening with a very dedicated heart to scriptures. And so Shams turned that around and said to Rumi several times, do not quote scripture to me. I want to hear your own voice. And that was a big deal for Rumi, because he was a preacher. He was a Sufi preacher. So, and preached all over the area and was very famous for that and very known for that and very learned and scholarly. So Shams and Rumi made their sama, or their deep listening, a sama of poetry and music. And in many facets of the Muslim faith, it was a sin to listen to music because it was considered too radical. So they were really breaking some rules by some people's perspectives. And Sufis, of course, are known for doing that, right? They're known for breaking rules. They're known for feeling that poetry and art and music are viable paths to God. So, yay. Yay for people breaking rules. Anybody have any thoughts or comments or questions about that before we begin? Okay, so I'm gonna start, and Diane, I don't know if you heard, but this is an American woman named Haleh Liza Gafori, and she's from New York City, and I could find nothing about her. I'm gonna call my friend who turned me on to this book, who's a friend of the writer, the translator, and see if I can get some information about her. So I'll just dive in. Let love, the water of life, flow through our veins. Let a love-drunk mirror steeped in the wine of dawn translate night. You who pour the wine, put the cup of oneness in my hand and let me drink from it until I cannot imagine separation. Love, you are the archer. My mind is your prey. Carry my heart and make my existence your bullseye. Let love, the water of life, flow through our veins. Let a love-drunk mirror steeped in the wine of dawn translate night. You who pour the wine, put the cup of oneness in my hand and let me drink from it until I cannot imagine separation. Love, you are the archer. My mind is your prey. Carry my heart and make my existence your bullseye. These are good. All right, next one. Like every other poem, I usually I go through my books of poetry before I read to you guys, and I pick. Oh, is that a hand? Yeah, pick me. Yes, Miss Diane.
But I'd like you to finish your sentence. I
I
was like a little
that,
kid.
I pick poems out of the books that I read to you. I go through them and spend hours picking my favorite poems. And I literally, like every other poem, I just picked every other poem. It was just, they were all so good. I can't remember ever reading a book of poetry saying, well, that one, I barely could not find a poem I didn't like.
So two things. One is, can we like go on to Amazon and buy?
Yes,
her?
that's where I found it. Yeah.
Could you say her name again?
Yes, it's Haleh. Haleh
Heleh
Liza Gafori, Gafore, and it's called Gold. Haleh Liza Gafori. She lives in New York City. The title of the book is Gold. It's her first translation.
Okay. Then my next question is, have you ever taken like one of her translations and put it the same exact poem next to like a Coleman Barks?
Well,
to see the diff, or a Farish Day?
If Coleman Barks had, or if Rumi, I should say, if Rumi had titles to his poems, you might be able to do that. But and so I have recognized some lines in these poems as lines that I have read before in Rumi, but I would have to have an index of Coleman Barks' work in order to try to do that. It would be an interesting thing to do. And I'm going to get in touch with this woman and ask her if she could talk to us, one day about her process of translation, because I think it would be very interesting to hear about. I know, right? Yeah. So this is a very short one, but great questions, by the way. A very short one. Every religion has love, but love has no religion. Love is an ocean, no borders, no shores. Drown there and you will not lament it. The drowned have no regrets. Colorless, nameless, free, that is what I am. When will I see myself as I am? Oh, this is not what I wanted to read. Skip. Just the other day, fire whispered to smoke, no stick of aloe shuns me. From its gnarls and knots, my flames unfurl a honeyed musk of amber fruit and flower. It profits in perishing. It welcomes me, even thanks me. At the doorway to emptiness, all knots come loose. Cheers, my flame-eating friend and love-slain victor. We saw you rise from the dead. We bow in awe. Look at the earth and sky, pawned to existence. One blind, one blue. Beyond them, emptiness, a gold mine. Joy streams from it. Why flee? Lose yourself to it. Turn the hard soil and break the clods open. Seeds will sprout. To stand elegant as a cypress, to caress a face, every seed must shed its coat. Churning and burning in the fiery gut, bread turns into soul and mind. What isn't transformed by fire is eaten up by envy. Smelt the gold and silver hiding in the rock. Glimpse what cannot be glimpsed. Wherever the soul soared, fire was there first. Everything I don't know, love will tell you. They're good, right? They're really good. If you want me to read anything again, let me know. I will do that. I tend to do a lot of that, which I really like. Your laughter turns the world to paradise. It tears through me like fire. It teaches me. Reborn in emptiness, I emerge laughing, here to learn from love. I've been short on courage, but I have a heart of sunlight, straight from the king's hand. I stir up laughter even in those who fear joy. Crack open my shell, steal the pearl. I'll still be laughing. It's the rookies who laugh only when they win. Last night, the spirit of dawn came to my room and gave me a lesson. Our blazing roars light the morning sky. It's the habit of lightning to laugh through a storm. Look at the furnace. See the glowing red veins? Gold, laughing in fire, daring you. Prove you're no fake. Laugh even when you lose. We're fodder for death, so learn to laugh. He laughs at the jeweled belts and crowns of kings, all that splendor's just on loan. I think I'll read that one again. Does that sound good? Your laughter turns the world to paradise. It tears through me like fire. It teaches me. Reborn in emptiness, I emerge laughing, here to learn from love. I've been short on courage, but I have a heart of sunlight, straight from the king's hand. I stir up laughter even in those who fear joy. Crack open my shell, steal the pearl. I'll still be laughing. It's the rookies who laugh only when they win. Last night, the spirit of dawn came to my room and gave me a lesson. Our blazing roars light the morning sky. Look at the furnace. See the glowing red veins? Gold, laughing in fire, daring you. Prove you're no fake. Laugh even when you lose. We're fodder for death, so learn to laugh. He laughs at the jeweled belts and crowns of kings, all that splendor's just on loan.
That reminds me of a poem by St. Francis. After he had had an audience with the Pope, and some people, some of his village asked him what that trip was like, and His poem was about the birds on the way, the birds that he had noticed on the way. There wasn't anything about the Pope in the poem. It was really, really
Yes.
sweet.
The Pope was not happy with St. Francis, for those of you who do not know that. The Catholic Church, this is documented, by the way, Catholic Church actually had a price on St. Francis's head. They wanted him dead because he established the idea of, taking vows of poverty. And the church did not want him to do that. And the only reason he remained alive in his lifetime is that his father was very wealthy and was able to protect him. Yeah, St. Francis pissed a lot of people off. That's a great story. Who am I? Who is this I? Prey to so many temptations, dragged this way and that, drawn to the ear like the string of a bow, shot forth like an arrow. The moment I close the door, an order from destiny falls on my roof. I am a star in the zodiac, cycling through houses of fortune and disaster, laughing in one, weeping in another. One moment, I speed like wind. The next, I'm a loafer. One moment, I'm fire. The next, a flash flood. Now, I'm levitating over the plains. Now, I'm plodding through deserts and towns. Where do I come from? What rung do I stand on? In what market am I for sale? One moment, I feel the sorrow of separation. One moment, I'm a mystery in mystery's arms. Now waxing and waning in pace with the moon. Now whirling and staggering, drunk on the divine. Now I'm Joseph, thrown in the well. Now I'm his brother, looking down from the rim. One moment, bandit and ghoul. One moment, restless and glum. One moment, perched on a high roof. Play the song mad lovers sing. Let me hear their passion. I broke through my chains. I wrenched the post from the ground. Stay by my side, beloved. Hear me out. Don't empty this cup of compassion. You are first and last, the light and the prize of this feast. Pour wine from the tavern where meaning is on tap. For the devoted servant, there is no other wine. In a field of logic, my words are horses with no room to run. Without reason, the voice of my soul stirs. Are y'all enjoying these? I think they're lovely. I really like them.
Who is the author, please?
Oh,
You?
it's her name is Haleh, H-A-L-E-H, Haleh Liza Gafori. She is an American living in New York, but she is of Iranian descent. And this is her first book of translations that she worked on for several years. She is a friend of mine. And I tried to find out some biographical information about her, but there is nothing in this book. There's not a word about her in this book. So I am going to call my friend who shared this with me and see if I can get the author's number and call her and see if maybe she'll come on with us one day and talk about the, what it was like to translate Rumi and what the difficulties were. And would just love to hear something about that. So that's all I know about her.
I like her. Yeah.
What?
Thank you, J-Bo. Yes, I enjoyed listening to that.
Yes, they're really good, aren't they? They're very different from Coleman Barks. We're going to do a little Q&A at the end.
But
so
this is her, or is she translating?
These are her translations of Rumi. Yeah,
Of Rumi.
her translations of Rumi. Yeah.
Now I know why the content's so pungent.
All right. Yeah.
She was the composer entire, yeah. But it's still, yeah, I don't mind. I'd like to hear more, sure.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
We're gonna keep going. This is actually one of my favorite ones in the book. Open your eyes to the four streams flowing through you: water, milk, honey, wine. Pay no attention to what the gossips say. They call the wide-eyed flower jasmine, or maybe a thorn. The wide-eyed flower doesn't care what they call it. I adore that freedom. I bow to it. Some say you worship fire. Some say you follow scripture. What do they know? Labels blind and tear us apart. Your eyes are not a vulture's beak. See through the beloved's eyes. See one when your mind says two. The angels adore your love-drunk nature. Open them and dismiss the vicious judge from the post you gave him. Bow to a human and greet the angel. Let's love each other. Let's cherish each other, my friend, before we lose each other. You'll long for me when I'm gone. You'll make a truce with me. So why put me on trial while I'm alive? Why adore the dead but battle the living? You'll kiss the headstone of my grave. Look, I'm lying here still as a corpse, dead as a stone. Kiss my face instead. I'm going to read it again. Open your eyes to the four streams flowing through you: water, milk, honey, wine. Pay no attention to what gossips say. They call the wide-eyed flower jasmine, or maybe a thorn. The wide-eyed flower doesn't care what they call it. I adore that freedom. I bow to it. Some say you worship fire. Some say you follow scripture. What do they know? Labels blind and tear us apart. Your eyes are not a vulture's beak. See through the beloved's eyes. See one when your mind says two. The angels adore your love-drunk nature. Open them and dismiss the vicious judge from the post you gave him. Bow to a human and greet an angel. Let's love each other. Let's cherish each other, my friend, before we lose each other. You'll long for me when I'm gone. You'll make a truce with me. So why put me on trial while I'm alive? Why adore the dead but battle the living? You'll kiss the headstone of my grave. Look, I'm lying here still as a corpse, dead as a stone. Kiss my face instead. Salt.
Excuse
Oh,
me. I
yes.
was noticing how she sews up each one so beautifully with her last line.
Yes. I think it's really partly, because Rumi is so good at that. And partly it's because I never choose poems that don't get sewn up at the end. It really bothers me to read a poem that I'm sort of left, dangling or hanging. I actually am sort of annoyed by poems like that. So I tend to pick poems that I feel like, turn on the dime and really find ourselves somewhere with the poet. But I think most good poetry does just that. It wraps it up somehow for the reader. And if you read, for example, Daniel's, we can't call them translations, Daniel's versions of Hafez, or if you read Mary Oliver, they do that just brilliantly. And it gives you a real sense of satisfaction at the end of the poem. Like, oh, some part of you is going, oh yeah. Otherwise you're kind of like, what did, but that's a great point. It's a big deal in poetry. Salt, dry land blooms with tulips when you appear. Sour grapes sweeten, hungry for your lips. Last night, in my dreams, I read your book of love. One chapter in, I was in ecstasy. Your revelations are wine. Your revelations are honey. We are cake, waiting for your touch. Sweeten any one of us, and our whole torn world tastes sweet. Your face is the sun. Our bodies are grapes. Sweeten us with your light. Catch hold of the thread's hidden end, you said, unspool yourself from yourself. There are treasures within you. Split the melon, hand them out. Have you seen love's field? The dancing heads and the blazing hearts. Lovesick, I went to the doctor of two worlds. He filled a vial with my blood. It beat like my heart. Dear Shams, pride of Tabriz, only you reveal the wound, the cure, and the root. I am not that lion battling an enemy. Confronting myself keeps me busy enough. I am the soil love seeds. Roses and lilies bloom from this mud. I ached from separation. I cloaked myself in night, emerged a shining moon. Consumed in love's fire, I slip through any opening. I rise like smoke. I am a child. Love is my teacher, waking me from ignorance. Like love, I will live on, radiant, eternal, when eating and sleeping are done. Till then, like Boubacar, the master musician, I quiet my mind and I listen. I fast. In silence, we hear body becoming spirit. Whatever the ways of the world, what fruits do you bring? Say famine strikes, no bread, no bowl of rice. Royal in rank, royal heart, where is your hand? Where is your measuring cup and storehouse of grain? Say earth and sky fall to idolatry. All of us on our knees worshiping figurines. Where is the idol, noble and clever enough to break the spell? Say scorpions, thorns, and snakes overrun the world. Even so, you're brimming with joy. Where is your garden? Take us to the flowers. Misers rule. Generosity fades from memory. Still, your eyes see. Your heart is full. What wage will you pay? What clothes will you offer the stripped and the bare? Sun and moon go down in hell's flames. What light will you shine? What fire will you light before we can't see, before we cannot hear? No mouth to utter love's secrets. Where are the silent translations surging from your heart? Dear friend, imagine you're a jeweler. You have more wealth than you can count. What else would you do but rain down pearls? Come, let's put this all aside. We're drunk on a lofty ale and it's getting late. Where, my friend, is your tavern? Take us there. So I think this is probably common knowledge, but just in case it's not, wine was forbidden to Muslims, including Sufis. And at that time, I think it's still the case. And so when he speaks about going to the tavern and wine, these are all, metaphors for a place of coming together and being together. And the wine meaning, sort of the juice of their life, the love spark of what they're experiencing in their life. And as we know, Sufis were had their lives threatened. That's happened recently, and in Hafez's time, not in Rumi's time, but in Hafez's time, he was made to live in the woods because a fundamentalist regime took over his village. So a lot of the Sufi poetry that you read is written intentionally in a somewhat hidden way, so that they would not get in trouble, because they really were breaking some laws. I saw myself sharp as a thorn. I fled to the softness of petals. I saw myself sour as vinegar and mixed myself with sugar. An aching eye seeing through pain, a stewing pot of poison. I was both. Reaching for the antidote, I touched compassion. I touched mercy. I was a cup holding only dregs. I poured in the water of life. Raw and callow, I followed the one already cooked by love's fire. In the dirt on love's path, I found the medicine that ensouls sight. Armor thinned to a silken scrim, I shifted the soil that gives vision to the blind. Love said, yes, you've arrived, but don't think it's your doing. I'm wind, your fire. I stoke your flames. So Rumi was so committed to the spirit of his poetry that when he died, despite the fact that he was a Sufi murshid, he had representatives of every major religion come to his funeral because he was such an example of inclusiveness and the celebrating the other, and really did not believe in separation. So it's something that speaks so highly about his character and the way that he lived these poems. And when Shams was murdered, Rumi continued being the head of the monastery. He did not go live in the woods. He did not give up. He kept going, which is, I can't even understand that. I can't understand how he could have loved someone so much and known that they were taken from him intentionally through jealousy, and not been bitter, and not have been really resentful. So it's incredible. I am not that unrequited lover, so bitter I flee love. There's no dagger in my hand, no urge to dodge a challenge. I am a wooden board, the carpenter sizes up. His axe, his nails, they don't worry me. Let the carpenter make something of me. If I resist, let love's flames have me. I'll be cramped and dark as a cave if I flee the friend who finds me here. I'll be frustrated, dull, and barren as stone if I don't step out of my petty self, take off the tight shoes and wade into rubies. How many eons must pass before the treasures I find here appear again? Why ignore them now? And why not seek my noblest self? I am not here to be ignoble. I am not a bandit, though I curb my heart. Quit it, enough, I tell it foolishly. My heart answers back. I'm in a gold mine, deep in gold. Why flee your chance to give? So we can read some more if y'all want, but I'd just love to hear your thoughts or any yeah, I can't really figure out how they're different from Coleman Barks, but they're definitely different. There's a different quality about them, and I can't put my finger on it. But any thoughts on that?
I feel it too. I think Coleman Barks has more of it's the wrong word, but I don't know what else. Flowery, pretty. It's prettier. You know, the images are prettier.
Huh.
Um, yeah.
Mm, interesting.
In a sense. That doesn't mean they're better. It's just,
Yeah.
you know, a different quality.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't feel that these are better or worse than his. I don't find myself having those thoughts at all. I just have the feeling that they're different, you know, because they're written by a different person, and I still can't figure out how, you know, how they're different. I really would have to do what Diane said. I'd have to probably do some research and pull the poems right next to each other, and then really get a better sense of how they're different.
Also, I think Coleman Barks makes references to maybe ancient Persian stories.
Mm,
Like you mentioned Joseph. I think he sees
mhm,
Joseph has come up in a lot of Coleman Barks
mhm,
stories. So there's that connection with the ancient that
mhm,
I hear. And and today it's slightly more daily, slightly more.
mm,
Is the word pedestrian wrong? It's just more how we talk. It's more
mm,
in our um, vernacular, the way we
mhm,
speak.
mhm. I wonder if that's because Coleman Barks, you know, has a PhD in English, and so he's used to looking at literature from other cultures and recognizing that it really has a different, you know, language and a different feeling. Whereas this is it is a more modern translation because he did his translations in the 70s and the 80s. That's when he did his primary work. Actually, when I lived in Athens, where he lived doing this work, um, that's when he did these translations. So they are actually, you know, 40 years later, we definitely have a more modern society.
Yeah, and that's kind of a freshness too.
Yes, it is. Sometimes I read Coleman Barks translations and I'm left not knowing what they meant. And so far, I haven't had that experience with her poetry at all. There's not one poem I've read that I thought left me scratching my head. Where several times I've read Coleman Barks translations and I genuinely couldn't follow it. And I don't know if that's because I've read so much more Coleman Barks than I've read of hers. And we've just read 20 poems. There's about maybe 50 in the book, where I've read hundreds of Coleman Barks translations. So
It would be interesting to think what kind of if these were to be performed with music, you know, as he has had, you know, accompanist, what kind of music might go well with these poems?
well, I happen to know that because the person who introduced me to her is the cellist that I work with. And this woman hired that cellist.
Okay.
And Coleman Barks works a lot with cellists as well. So I don't know if she got that idea from seeing him or just, you know, there's something about cello that goes with the human voice so well. Yeah. I'd really like to find her and just, you know, ask her to come on and talk to us a little bit about this process. I can't imagine spending a year or two translating Rumi. I think that would be sort of life-changing because you'd be so steeped in it, you know.
I'm wondering what sources she used in her translations. I know, as far as I know, Coleman Barks is not versed in Persian. So I think maybe the English man that you had mentioned earlier was Arbery. He was, I think he did his translations like maybe in the 50s or maybe even earlier than that. And anyway, I just wondering about their sources and
Yeah.
what comes through, those sources that they used. Maybe she knows the Persian language and is more direct in terms of the language.
Yeah. Yeah. I would like to know that if she's a Farsi speaker. That would be really interesting to know. Yeah. I do know that when Coleman Barks went to and I forget, it's on the tip of my tongue, the Clark, Wilberforce Clark.
Yeah.
That was he was the, I forget his position, but he was an Englishman living in Saudi Arabia and learned Farsi. And those are some of the translations that Coleman Barks has used, Wilberforce Clark, and that was the author whose book Baba held and blew on because he recognized they were so uninspiring
Oh,
about Hafez. But even though Coleman Barks used someone else's literal translations, he also had a Farsi speaking person that he consulted with a lot. Like they went back and forth about those poems quite a bit. I mean, I think that's why it took him years to just do his first book. But because he has a PhD in English, I think he tried really hard because, people in the academic world tend to recognize that they will be really reprimanded if they're not true to their translations. So I think he had, a lot of intention about being as true as he could to the translations. Otherwise, I mean, when you're in the scholarly world, it's all about that kind of thing, accuracy and that sort of thing. But I do know that Coleman Barks ended up becoming a teacher of a Sufi master in Pennsylvania. I forget what country he was from. I think it was Pakistan, and was very, very dedicated to that teacher and spent years studying with him, and had a vision of his teacher when he was still a young boy, like he was really guided to do this work, very guided. It was not just a by chance thing. So I think he felt a real spiritual connection to Rumi and to the work he was doing. He's still alive, but he is in his late 80s and he is in very poor health and has people who live in his house now to take care of him. So he probably will not be with us much longer, and he doesn't perform anymore.
I had no idea that he would be in his late 80s because I've seen him a number of times, but it just blows my mind that he is, in his late 80s.
Yeah. It might be his early 80s. We could look it up. He's in his 80s. He's not, he doesn't go out of the house anymore. He had several strokes. So, yeah. But we're so lucky that he was still here and that we all got to see him so many times. So grateful for him doing this work. Shall I read a few more before we end? Unless anybody else has anything they want to add. No. If you quit thinking for 1 hour, what will happen? If you plunge like a fish into love's ocean, what will happen? When worries keep you up at night, picture the 7 sleepers slumbering in a cave for centuries, resting in faith. You'll be filled with holy light, no matter where you lay your head. Straw man, at the end of your straw world, there's a fragrant field of amber. If you leap from your high haystack and join us, what new heights will you reach? Again and again, you vowed to be humble as soil. You broke your word every time. When will you keep it? What will bloom? You are a gem covered in mud and clay. Your beautiful face is hidden. You came down from the heavens. The high angel adores you, and still you feel like a poor wretch. If you remember who you are, what will you become? You seek truth, but you don't trust a single truth teller. I know a truth seer. Listen to him, see what happens. A fragment, a hand longing for its body. You dream of greatness, grandiose fantasies, gripped by greed, gripped by pride. Give yourself up. Give yourself over to glory. See what happens. You are a mountain full of gold. Open the mine. Let the mountain speak. Hear what happens. So now I'm wading into the parts of the book I haven't read yet because I just got this book, so see what happens. Sufis arrive from the left and from the right, wandering door to door, alley to alley. Where is the wine? The heart is a door, the soul an alley, and the wine flows from God's jug. The cupbearer opens it, calls out, "Greetings, friends. To drink this wine is not a sin. To feel ecstasy is not a sin." Feeling guilt for feeling pleasure, that's your sin. That's your chain. Shatter it, tear it off, then invite the Puritans over. Today is an invitation to ecstasy. Let them know. If they turn away, let them go. Let them judge. Let them talk. Let them smear your good name. You'll have less to guard. Lover, the eyes of lovers behold you. Your friend is the ocean. You found me once again, you thief of hearts. In a drunken ecstasy, you searched the bazaar and found me. Even through sleepy-lidded, love-drunk eyes, you spotted me. I ran to the tavern. You followed. Why do I run when no one can escape you? Why hide when you found me 100 times? I thought I could lose you in a crowd of people, but you find me even in the crowd of secrets, even behind my own masks. What a blessing to be sought and found by your eyes. What luck to be caught in your twists and turns. Loving seer, persistent seer, towering cypress of countless gardens. I was pulling a thorn from my foot when you found me. You showered me with flowers from your fertile beds. Dear nightingale, your melodies open my ears. Like a ladle wanting its fill of light, I plunged into the moon's halo. At the bottom of that bottomless pot, you found me. Like a deer fleeing a lion, I ran through the desert. Deep in the mountains, you found me. Wounded, I shed my blood on every path. You followed the drops. I was a hooked fish writhing in the waves. At the end of the line, you were there. You roam the skies and catch galloping deer. With all that skill and patience, you have found me. The moment you found me, you gave me a cup brimming with love's wine, heavy enough to match the weight of my soul. Each sip lightened it, every sip a balm. I drank till empty. My soul took flight. I have no words, no ear, no tongue today. The source of thought and word have found me. Does anyone have a favorite Rumi poem they would like to read? And then putting you on the spot, you have to know where it is. And, no,
Don't know Rumi very well.
you don't.
You're doing
Oh, really?
great. You're pulling the wagon. You're the horse, the cart, and the driver. Baba family.
They're good, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
Yeah, you can never go wrong with Rumi, in my opinion. It's funny because I started this whole series 2 years ago because every time I would go to the center and go to the Sunday night gatherings in the room next to the library, the reading room, people would just read the same things over and over again. They'd read Rumi, they'd read Hafez, maybe they'd read Kabir, little Mary Oliver. They mostly read the same people over and over and over again. And I thought, I know there's a wider circle to cast our nets into. And so we have read several poets in the past 2 years, but I have to say that in the end, I keep coming back to Rumi as being this just, huge well to pull from. I never read Rumi and walk away unsatisfied or my perspective changes literally within a poem. Like I can be having a bad day or be upset about something, take your pick of all the things we go through. And Rumi just brings me right back into really remembering, what's what and what's of importance. And it's such a gift. And
Tracey,
yeah.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, there are very few poets I can say that about. Most poetry does not do that for me.
When you ask if we had a favorite Rumi poem,
Oh, yeah.
I have to run and get my notebook because
Yeah.
I have a notebook, that's got lots of Rumi in it. And this is actually this section of a poem. It's from what I guess Coleman Barks called the Water Wheel. But it's a section that I just loved, and I committed it to heart, and I would recite it.
Yeah, oh, please.
Stay together, friends. I'm sorry, I can't read my own writing. That's why I committed it to heart. Stay together, friends. Don't scatter and sleep. Our friendship is made of being awake. And from what I understand, and this was something that Coleman Barks commented, I think, before he shared this poem, was that at some point after Shams had disappeared, he realized that the friendship was still within him. And out of that sense of fullness of friendship, a lot of that poetry came.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Rumi did not write poetry until Shams disappeared. He did not write one piece of poetry until Shams disappeared. All of his poetry came from the grief that he experienced in that loss.
So that could I share that one again, because it has the word friendship in it.
Yeah.
Stay together, friends. Don't scatter and sleep. Our friendship is made of being awake.
Doesn't that come from a longer poem?
Yes, from the Water Wheel.
You have the rest of it?
I don't have the rest of it. I just copied those 4 lines. And I'm not sure what book I was reading.
I found it.
You did? Okay.
Yeah. Apparently, it was published in The Essential Rumi in 1995 by Coleman Barks. Here it is. Stay together, friends. Don't scatter and sleep. Our friendship is made of being awake. The water wheel accepts water and turns and gives it away, weeping. That way, it stays in the garden, whereas another roundness rolls through a dry riverbed looking for what it thinks it wants. Stay here, quivering with each moment like a drop of mercury.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Really beautiful.
I thought of another way in which today's poet is different, and that is using the personal pronoun I. There's a lot of it there.
Mm.
And And I don't think Coleman Barks does that so much.
Hmm.
I was
Uh-huh.
very aware of this individual.
I'll have to really notice that when I'm, yeah, next time I'm reading Coleman Barks translations.
But Coleman Barks doesn't do that so much.
Well, thank you all for the listening ear. It's always a pleasure for me to share Rumi or to read Rumi or to think about Rumi or to recite Rumi to myself. Anything around Rumi makes me really happy. So thank you for being a reason for me to share the hour and deeply steeped in his wonderful words and perspectives, which we're so lucky to have. I really cannot think of another poet like him. I think the Hafez is as close as it gets, and his work is so different, really. So thank you for sharing it with me.
I've already